Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Peak Endurance Podcast. Today, Ron joins me.
Hello, how are you?
And they're all answering good.
Corner.
We're really good. It's so awesome. We're out running at the moment, so we are having an awesome time. Speaking of running, Ron, how's your running going?
My running's going really well. I've started to build up some decent kilometres. I'm feeling really good.
You've been doing regular 100-kilometre weeks. How many have you been doing now?
I think I'm probably at around 7 or 8 in a row.
And when was the last time prior to this that you did 100K weeks?
Back when I was originally training for my first 100, which was Gow back in 2018, I hit maybe 2 or maybe 3, but they weren't consistent.
And how did you feel after those?
I was wrecked.
Yeah,
I couldn't sustain it.
So what do you think has been the difference this time? The awesome coach you've got?
Yes, obviously the awesome coach. And, once again, the whole reason why I got a coach in the first place was to get consistency. And that's exactly what I've got.
And that's what we've done with your training is we've built you up to be able to run 100K weeks. You can't just jump to that. So we built you up, regular 60-kilometre weeks, 70-kilometre weeks, 80-kilometre weeks, with some rest in between. Obviously, it's we did do that, but slowly built you up to 100K weeks. It wasn't a huge, like you probably did, inconsistent jumps, which is why it wrecked you.
Yeah.
Now it's almost become just normal for you.
That's right.
And that's what we want to do is we want to normalize that kind of distance for you because, we've got the 65K at Wonderland, but we've also got the 100K in Canberra, which for me is a training run for the miler, but for you, that's...
that'll be my biggest run since
2018.
Or early 2019. I did another 100. I did Duncan's 100 in early 2019. So that was the last really big run that I've done. So,
When in 2019 was that?
I think it was March or February 2019.
Oh, okay.
It was quite early.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was at a different time of year.
No, not that time.
So, I mean, now we've got you regularly doing that. And I think, how did you feel after Duncan's at the time?
I was wrecked.
You were pretty much injured after
that.
I
was. By the time
I wasn't his coach then.
No, you weren't. By the time I finished that race, my feet and my ankles, were wrecked. I pretty much had to walk it in because I couldn't run anymore.
And do you think that that's going to be such an issue this time?
No, I don't think so. Because I'm, in all my long runs, we're pretty much logging long runs every week, and I'm not having any of those issues.
Yeah. So this is, I suppose, we're talking about this because I hope people are interested, but also it's just a testament to developing consistency in your training and building up slowly. Like this has taken you to get to this. It's taken you 2 years.
That's right. Yeah.
To get to regular 100K weeks.
Yep.
And I think sometimes people think that you can just jump up, but if you're wanting to avoid injury, especially when you're less young like us, you've got to build up slower.
Yep.
So, it's just really important. Consistency cannot be overrated enough or whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
And those times when I did get up around the 100Ks, I was always having trouble with my calves or my ankles. Yeah. It was just a constant battle.
Yeah. And now you're fine.
Now I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Excellent. And obviously my training is going pretty well. And what I've been listening to on podcasts is Ron, as I've said before, Ron got me onto the short history of, and I just wanted to bring up everybody. I listened to the short history of the Spartans, which you listened to too. And I find it interesting that there was a race that the Spartans had to do where they were given some water at the start of the race that they had to put in their mouth, hold in their mouth, do the race, and then to prove that they had finished the race, they had to spit the water out. Did you get from it how long the race was? I don't remember hearing that. They didn't say that. But I thought, what an awesome challenge that would be. To race hard, like they were racing hard,
and
then to keep that water in your mouth.
So next week's challenge is a 10K run.
Yep. At race pace effort.
At race pace effort with water in your mouth
with
the whole way.
With a mouthful of water the whole way, no swallowing it or spitting it out, and getting to the end.
No swallowing it and then taking another sip halfway through.
Yeah, you can't refuel.
No refueling.
Yeah, so it'll put the tortilla challenge or whatever that is to shame. That's something I've been watching. Look it up, people. Look up Kevin Hart and The Rock doing the tortilla. Is it the tortilla? Is it called tortilla over there?
I think it is.
Yeah, the tortilla challenge. Absolutely hilarious. Anyway, enough about us. Let's talk about us. No, enough about us. Let's talk about poles. Now, everybody knows that I am a big believer in using poles in training and racing, because poles deload your legs. You're climbing the hills and you're using your arms to help pull you up the mountain, and they kind of drag you up, and they also give you 4 points of contact with the ground. So A, you're more stable. B, you're using your upper body to help you, not just your legs. And on the downhills, they can help to deload as well, and they just help you navigate tricky terrain. On the flats, you can really get into a good rhythm when you're running. Obviously, it's not with every footfall, but like every second or third. They really help. Now, when we met, Ron, you had never used poles, had you?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't really seen anyone use them, and they weren't even on my radar.
Yeah. And so obviously, me being, a poles advocate, I bought you some for Christmas.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah, I tried. First of all, I just tried them on.
I had some spare pair, didn't I? Not lecky.
Yeah, no, they were adjustable.
Adjustable ones, so Ron could use them. And you liked them, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
I didn't just buy them for you. I didn't do a Homer Simpson and buy you a bowling ball.
No, you didn't. I did use them and want to use them more.
Yeah, yeah. So, I got you the good lecky ones, and just talk to everyone about what you have experienced and noticed when using poles.
Well, one thing, that we have done in our training is every now and then we'll go through a set where we're looking for lots of climbing, like at the moment where, every second week we're trying to hit, lots of vert.
Yeah.
And without using the poles, I just couldn't keep up with you. After 1,000 meters of climbing, that's, pretty much where I'm tapping out, and, you're leaving me for dead.
So where have you noticed it? Is it in, why do you feel that?
I think it's because it's sharing the load. So, so I am definitely getting faster at climbing up the hills, but I think the bigger payoff is the fact that I can go further.
Yeah. And
without being fatigued.
Being fatigued. And that's the key. Like, I was once climbing a hill using my poles, and I was hiking fast, and there was a guy in front of me running. Now, I was keeping pace with him, so we were doing the same pace, but I can tell you right now who was using more energy and who would fatigue earlier, and that's the person that was running. So although I wasn't going faster than him per se, if it had been a race, and quite frankly it was, I was racing him, he didn't know it, he was really huffing and puffing to get up this steep hill, and I was not so much, even though I was working. But I know if it had been a race later on in the race, he would have been so fatigued, he'd have crashed and burned, and that's when I would have overtaken him. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what it does, is it measures out your energy much better, so you don't burn all your matches on the first few hills, and then you have nothing left. Yeah. How did you find it when you first started in your upper body?
Well, I think, in my opinion, I wasn't really using them quite correctly to their best advantage. So I guess the common thing is you pick up your poles and they become almost just carrying sticks. So
And that's something I always talk about in my clinics, as you know, is really pushing them down. You should be able to see a little divot in the dirt from where you've pushed down. And I talked about that with you too. Like, you don't want to just have the sticks there flapping around in the breeze. You need to actually use them, and you need to push down and push and pull. But how did you feel within your upper body? Like, did you get sore arms at all once you started using them?
Yeah, the first couple of times I did start feeling, not really sore, just fatigued. Like by the end of the run, I'd be fatigued in my triceps and shoulders.
Yeah.
So, when I'd get to the bottom of the hill, the next hill, and that first couple of steps up, you could feels like the poles are weighing 5 kilos each.
But we've also, like, I mean, I know you did weights before you met me, but I've sort of got you on a more specific program for running. And I try to, as you know, when we've talked about it, and I'm trying to figure out new exercises, and I'm always trying to think how they can replicate with using poles, because I'm always trying to think of new exercises for my clients. So do you find those specific sort of exercises have helped with that strength work wise?
Yep, most definitely. We do, when we're in the gym, we do put a bit of emphasis on, shoulders and pulling down. So, and
the back work. And all that.
Using core to pull weights down rather than lifting weights.
Yeah. And and what about going downhill? Have you felt that they've helped you on the downhills, and if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in fact, when we were out, not this last weekend past, but the weekend before, and we were, in our local hills around the Dandenongs, and there's a trail that it's a well-known trail called Dodds, which is well known for being very steep and rocky, quite technical. And the poles, I find the poles going down there are just as useful as going up. Yeah. I really, have come to, almost rely on them just to keep my balance. They help you to lean forward a little bit because, when you're running down a steep technical track, your tendency is to lean back, which then creates sliding and,
and really puts the brakes on.
Yeah, puts the brakes on. So using poles actually helps you to lean forward a little bit and lean into the downhill.
Yeah.
While also, focusing on, on the trail, where you're putting the poles, where you're putting your feet, it really helps you to focus.
Yeah, and that's it. It does create a focus for you, which I also find on the flats is, if you're looking to where to put your poles and you're looking, that meter ahead of where to put your feet, where to put the poles, you're really cognizant of the entire trail, and you're being more specific about paying attention, which means that you can go faster for A, because you're more aware of what's happening, and B, because you're putting the poles in the correct spots and deloading the legs, because how often is it that you run downhill and you smash your quads out? If you're using the poles, you are helping to deload on the downhills as well.
That's right. Yep.
And I have to say, watching you on downhills, like you're the student has surpassed the master. Like, you make me look like a beginner sometimes. Like, seriously, you can go so fast, and I'm just in awe with the tapping of the poles, and it's just like, I'm a little bit, that's not fair. But it's true, which just goes to show that we all find a certain area that we can, become experts at. And you certainly have run with it, pardon the pun, with the poles on downhills. I find you've really nailed that technical skill.
And I actually enjoy it. I enjoy, being able to feel like I'm, actually using the poles properly, and that they're actually an advantage to what I'm doing. I'm not just carrying a useless bit of carbon fiber.
Because everyone wants a little bit of extra weight to carry with them.
I'm actually using them, as to my advantage.
And we do see that, everyone sees that, people who carry their poles and never use them. Like, I was at Wandy Cross, and we're climbing one of the big first hills, and this woman had the poles in her pack, and she wasn't using them.
Yeah.
And I went up to her and said, why aren't you using your poles? She goes, oh, yeah, I know that would help, but I couldn't be bothered getting them out. So I stood there for 10 minutes, and I know I couldn't be bothered getting them out. That was so hard to get out of her that crossbow thing.
Yeah.
On this, that's why I don't like that. So I helped her get the poles out, 10 minutes later, because they were jammed in. So I get it. But seriously, if you've got your poles, have them somewhere accessible, like on the Solomon packs, rather than using that quiver, there's straps at the bottom of it.
That's right.
Just over your hips, and it's so easy. And personally, I just like to keep them in my hands because you can use them on uphills, downhills, and on the flats. Now, talk to people about your experiences with them on the flats.
Yeah, I particularly when you're running undulating type trails, they're just as handy when you're after you climb. You don't need to put them away straight away, because they actually give you a bit of a breather once you actually start to start running along the flat. They actually give your legs a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And and also it actually takes your mind off how things are feeling.
You've got something else to concentrate on.
You're focusing on, getting your rhythms right and, not tripping over your poles, which is, an issue for me. And so it actually takes your mind off other things and helps you to, focus in on what you're doing.
And whether you're on, on the trail, or sometimes you'll be on a bitumen, but the tapping, I find certainly when I'm deep into an ultra and it's getting late, and it gives me it's almost like a meditation, like how they say to focus on your breathing, to focus the mind. Well, for me, I'll focus on the tapping of the poles and getting into that rhythm. And once you get into that rhythm, it's almost like, and like you say, you're deloading the legs. It's almost like you're skimming over the top of the grind, rather than, running per se. And I just find it really helpful. I mean, it doesn't last forever, and you need to swap in and out of using that. But I think for certain aspects, it really does. Now, obviously, on really rocky terrain and really rocky climbs, poles aren't necessarily the best things because they don't grip on that sort of stuff. But if you're using, dirt, if you're running on dirt, then using poles is awesome. Just make sure the tips that you've taken the rubber off the tips, you've got the little metal tips. They are much more effective. And also just check your poles occasionally. I did wonder why my poles kept slipping, and that's because the metal tips had fallen out somehow and I'd worn the rubber right down, which just goes to show I'd been really using my poles. But one ended up significantly shorter than the other, which was no one else. It
wasn't salvageable.
No, it was not salvageable.
It was a good 5 centimeters shorter.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So that's, using poles. And for yourself, I know when I first started using poles, the one thing I was concerned about was, eating, because that's always my biggest concern is eating.
Yeah.
And eating while carrying poles, how have you found that?
Well, I'm not the world's best eater as it is.
No, I know.
I'm constantly having to be reminded to eat.
Yes. In a really nice way too, may I say.
Okay. But one thing for me is it's not really an issue for me because I certainly can't eat while I'm climbing.
Yes, no. And you generally probably not the best time. It's the best time is on a downhill, shove it in your gob and then go down the downhill.
Yeah. For me, it's generally once I've finished climbing, then I'll stop and
but in the race you're not going to stop.
Because I am, I'm
not stopping in the race for you to eat.
If I try and eat while I'm moving, at
you can actually eat pace, on a climb.
I feel like I'm going to collapse because I can't breathe.
Yeah. There is an art to eating and breathing, which you are yet to master.
I cannot master.
And I've tried to teach you because I can eat, breathe, and talk all at the one time.
Yeah, and also drink water. But I really struggle to eat and keep moving at the same time.
And I'm sure other people are the same. But what you have to do is put both poles in one hand and stagger them. So that you can still use one pole, but they're staggered. So, because if you have them both, they're going to be like chopsticks and it's not going to work. So if you stagger them, that's another thing I teach and we go over in my pole skills clinic. So, we actually properly go over it. And all of these skills that we're talking about, we go over in the Pulse Skills Clinic.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I was the one who kind of explained to you how to use that. Did you find the way I explained did help you?
Absolutely. I remember the first time I tried to climb up, using the poles, I was all over the place. I couldn't get my rhythm. Like I was left, right, left,
and that's often the
foot
problem.
and hand. And, it took me quite a while to actually be able to have my hands keep up with my feet.
Yeah. And that's what I often find with people who come to these clinics is, and please don't be embarrassed if you're all the same way, is for some reason you can run coordinated, but as soon as you put poles in people's hands, they lose the coordination. Yeah. So that's something we work on. And although, I do teach in the clinics, it's really important for people to go away from the clinic and practice, because practice is the best thing. And that's what we do.
Yep. And I barely even have to think about it. It just, it comes quite naturally.
I have to say, you have picked it up super well, like honestly. And that's why Ron comes along to the clinic and does help out as well.
But mostly I take photos.
Yes. He's event photographer.
Yes.
But in saying that, as much as we love the use of the poles, and I have to say, I think you almost love them more than me now, because on Saturday when we were planning to go up to Maroondah Dam, I said, poles or no poles? And you're like, poles? And I'm like, no poles.
No poles.
We're going to, not use poles today, because it is still important to work on the leg strength purely without poles. So if I could recommend it to you, it'd be like every third hilly run, do it without poles. And what you'll find also is it will really teach you the benefits, because where are we not saying, oh my God, this would be so much easier with poles, would be so much quicker.
Absolutely. Yep.
And it really brings home to you what a difference it makes. Now, also when people climb hills, they often lean forward and push down on their knees. And what you'll find when you compare the two is with the poles, you're much more upright, which enables you to breathe much deeper and easier, and certainly do the belly breathing easier. A lot harder to do belly breathing, which is the best kind of breathing, when you're leaning forward, pushing off your knee. But I still recommend people to not use the poles every single hilly run, to occasionally do without them, because you never know, in the race your pole could snap. It's happened to me before. So you've got to be prepared and able to not have to use them if necessary, though God knows it's horrible without them when that happens.
Plus, it's just good training. Training is training, and training. It's
not the race.
Training your legs, at any time is, good training. So, what makes using poles during a race, advantageous is if your legs are already strong and you're actually helping them along with the poles.
That's right. The poles should not be doing, once again, not doing all the work or your upper body, because your upper body is smaller than your legs. They are helping. And in saying that, in talking about strength, I think also people need to understand how important strength work is, and that's something they've really got to work on as well, because especially if you're using poles, you do need to strengthen your upper body. You can't just expect to use your poles once a week or once a fortnight and get strong arms that way. It's just not going to happen. So you need to be doing that in the gym, strong legs, lots of step ups, lots of lunges, lots of squats, to strengthen your legs for this sort of action, and using quite heavy weights if you can. But once again, build up to it. You can't just suddenly bust out the heavy weights, or you won't be able to run the next day, and B, you might injure yourself. So, these are obviously all services I provide, but, you don't have to come to me, just you need to work on these things. And with the poles as well, like we said, you can't just, expect to use them straight away perfectly. It is a learned skill that needs to be worked on, especially on downhill, so that you don't trip yourself over, because they can be a little bit sketchy on the downhill if you're not 100% sure on how to use them.
And if, I am living proof that, for many years I'm a runner. I just run and that's all I do. And I can absolutely categorically tell you that you plateau, you get to a point and that's as far as you're going to get without doing extra work in the gym. You just won't improve past a point. Working on your techniques, working on I don't know, Isabel's more technical than I am with, with
drills.
Drills and action-specific training in the gym.
Yeah, so functional training that actually works on the specific muscles that you use in running and sort of the specific motions that you use in running. So, and it's just so important. And, we start to lose muscle mass once we hit our early 30s.
Oh, will we? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes, it's going to happen one day. I know. So much to look forward to.
Yes, that's right. I can't wait till that happens.
So, it's if you're in your late 20s or early 30s thinking, oh, well, it doesn't matter for me yet. Yeah, it actually does. And you want to start mitigating the losses now so that when you're as young as us, it's not so bad. And like, seriously, I think for my age, I think I'm fairly strong. And that is because, once again, consistency in the weight room. Like, I don't go to the gym once every 3 weeks and think, oh, that'll do. And I couldn't be bothered. No, last Thursday, I really didn't want to go to gym, but I made myself because I know how important it is. And I felt better after, and it was great. And I'm glad I did. And, it's just really important. All of it. And like you say, it's everything. It's the running, it's the training for the hiking, it's the strength work, core work, the stretching.
Yeah, well,
Ron.
I'm not completely there yet. I'm not the perfect athlete.
One day you will stretch.
My stretching consists of watching
getting things off the high shelves for me
and watching Isabel stretch.
Yes, that's pretty much it. But I've only been, like, when we first met, I wasn't stretching, was I? But I just was not consistently. I was just getting so many aches and pains. But we should do another podcast on stretching another time. So we won't go into that now. All I want to say is, if you are doing long races, ultras that involve any sort of hills or mountains, you really should be using poles. They're not cheating sticks, in spite of what other people say, or some people say. They definitely are not. If they were, they'd be banned.
That's right.
And they're not, because they're perfectly legitimate. And
it's only cheating if you're the only one that's allowed to use them.
That's right. So not cheating, it's sensible, and it saves you so that you can finish the race, really makes a huge difference.
Yep.
So if you are interested, I have my last pole skills clinic for the year this Saturday, August the 20th in the Dandenong Ranges on the Baronia side, or the Frontry Gully side. So yes, 2:00. Get onto the website, peakendurancecoaching.com.au, go to the shop, and you will find the skills clinic there. Get on board, because like I said, it's the last one for the year. I'll maybe do another one next year before Oscars and that.
It is well worth it. It's a very, very handy skill to have.
Yeah, if you're doing the Alpine Challenge or GSER or Buller, you're going to want to use poles. And, if you're doing Oscars and Archies, you're going to want to use poles.
Absolutely.
So, the next poles clinic will be probably, when's Oscars? February?
Yeah.
It'll be before then. But not long before then. So if you want to get on board now, go to the website. Like I said, I'll put the link in the show notes. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. Any final words for the people listening? Oh, sorry, I was just playing with elastic band and it just broke.
Yes. No, I just enjoy your training and mix it up. Don't get stuck in a rut.
Yeah, sometimes we go off and do bouldering.
That's right.
We want to go and do Ninja Par.
Yeah, and our next big plans for adventures is we're gonna try and get into some fast packing.
Yep,
that's our next.
Yeah, and once again, you need to be strong in the back and everything for that. So fast packing. If anyone's got any equipment they can lend us, and before we spend up big,
maybe a little bit of advice.
Yeah, nah, who needs advice?
That's right.
Yes, do let us know if you're experienced with fast packing, and maybe we could even do a podcast on fast packing after we've had a bit of a go at it.
Yeah.
But yes, we are looking at, we don't want to have to spend a fortune on equipment to start with. So we'll see what we can do. But yes, let us know about your experiences with fast packing, and we'll maybe do a podcast on that soon. Thank you for joining us again. Yes, we hope you're enjoying your runs. Have fun. It's meant to be fun.
It is.
You know,
we do this because we love it.
We do it because we love it, which is what Ron tells me when I'm saying, why am I doing this? He goes, because you love it. No, I don't. Yes, I do. I love it all the time. Yeah. Even when I don't. No, we do. We do. And, you know, we're so lucky here having so many good trails around. Yeah. So why wouldn't you? Yeah. All righty. Till next time, everybody, when we will speak to you again. Have a great week, day, minute.
Goodbye.
Bye.